We are at the last of 14 elements. However, we're not at the end, okay? Because the election is coming up in, 9 days, I would like to have been at this point 2 weeks ago, but there wasn't any way to jam everything together. So I kind of jumped forward, and we're going to come back starting next week and go back up and pick up segment 3, 4, 5, 7, then jump over and get 10 and 11. Okay? We're not going to try to do all that next week, you understand? We'll do that between now and the end of the quarter. Okay? So today we're going to try to deal with what are the citizens' responsibility when it comes to voting, the importance of each vote, the position at the county level responsible for the voting process that's going to happen in 9 days, how to register to vote, and if you haven't registered to vote already, you can't register for the vote that's happening in 9 days, but you can register for the next go-around, okay? How to check your voter registration. You can do that, I believe. However, the Secretary of State's website was down when I looked at it this morning, and it's supposed to get back up. What was the impact of the motor voter law that we passed here in Oregon? What are the tools that can be used to evaluate candidates if you haven't done so already? And how do you make sure that your vote was counted? Here's my bottom line. I think as a citizen we have a responsibility. We can't do everything. Everybody's busy. But we can do something. We can become informed to some level, and we can vote. Here's why I believe that that's really critical. In November of 2021, the Linn County Law Enforcement Levy was on the ballot. There were 95,589 ballots sent out in Linn County. Only 31% of those came back. Of those, 61% of the 31% were in favor of the ballot measure. Now, that's a total of 18,416 people who voted. That's 19% of the vote. What that means is 2 out of 10 that were registered voters in Linn County made a financial agreement that affected everyone. Now, I was in favor of the ballot measure, but that's a really poor turnout for something that impacts us. If you haven't got your property tax statement in the last week or so, you ought to go check that out because it's a big chunk of that. Okay? So this is part of my push to encourage people to become informed. Now, part of that for me is a reality check. Not everybody's crazy enough to spend the time to do the detail here in this voting stuff, and I don't encourage people to do that because everybody's usually got a job, except if you're like me and retired, and if I had a job, I don't have time to do it anymore. Job, family, recreation, church, we have a limited amount of time, and so we have to determine where to spend that. And one of the difficulties that happens with this voting arena is we have a tendency to think of the vote as a one-up item. We have a vote in about 9 days, and people will go, that's over with, right? Well, here's the bad news. There are typically 2 elections in every county in Oregon in each year. One in May and one in November. Sometimes they don't have much going on, but there will be 2 elections. In the odd number years, starting next year, special service district board members will be elected in May. That's school board, fire boards, water boards, okay? All of those will be on the May ballot. There may be bond measures in the November election. On the even-numbered years, federal, state, county, primary election in May, bonds and some ballot measures may be on there in May, and then a general election in November. That's where we're at now, where city council and mayor will be on this November election. We also find that maybe bonds and measures. I assume everybody has their ballot. you will see that there are 4 statewide measures, and there are often some local measures. So this I took off of the desk at the Lynn County Courthouse. This is the importance of one vote. In 1645, I know that was a while ago, one vote gave Oliver Cromwell control of England. 1845, one vote brought Texas into the Union. In 1868, one vote saved President Andrew Johnson from impeachment. In 1876, one vote gave Rutherford B. Hayes the presidency of the United States. In 1923, one vote gave Adolf Hitler leadership of the Nazi Party. In 1960, one vote change in each of the precincts in Illinois would have defeated John Kennedy. So here's a little closer look. There are 3 large voting groups in the state of Oregon. If you look down at the bottom, first, the total in Oregon, this is 2020. I know the numbers have increased, okay? But there are about 753,000 Republicans, a little over 1 million Democrats, and then this group called NAV, non-affiliated voters, okay? 945,000 of them out of about 3 million voters. If we look closer at our counties, in Benton County, there are 13,000 Republicans, 26,000 or about 27,000 Democrats, and about 17,000 non-affiliated. In Lynn, it's 32, 22, and 31. Now, I just looked the other day and I didn't go in and make corrections to this. The NAVs now outnumber the Republicans in Lynn County, okay? By the way, if you're following along in the printed material, you will occasionally find some small differences because I review this multiple times and I keep making little changes. In fact, this morning I found a typo that had been there for a long time and fixed it. It won't be obvious, but I saw it, okay? Here in Marion County, you've got 63,000 Republicans, about 63,000 Democrats, and then this 74,000 NAVs, okay? Right? So we're split into 3 major groups. The voter database for voters in Oregon is maintained by the Secretary of State. Verification of the voter roll is the responsibility of the county clerk. That is often constrained by laws and regulations passed by the legislature. They do some silly stuff up there. The election at the county level is the responsibility of the county clerk. They are responsible for making the ballots, mailing the ballots, receiving the ballots, and counting the ballots. If the clerk is an elected position, which is true in Lynn and Marion counties, they are responsible to no one except those of us who elected them to office. They're not responsible to the Secretary of State. They're constrained by state law and regulation, but the Secretary of State does not have authority over an elected county clerk. If you want to know more about what's happening in your county, here are the links to the 3 county clerks. And I believe there's one of the handouts this morning that you picked up. Up toward the top of it has got a list of websites, okay? And at the top of it are these 3 county clerk positions. Most people don't even know that this exists, but it's worth going to, especially during election time, okay? These links are hot if you download the document from the website, okay? JBC's website, okay? So I know this is too small for you to see, but that's the way life is. So this is Marion County. This is just one part of what's on the Marion County elections website. So if you want to find out about how they process ballots, if you want to find out what the timelines are coming up, you want to know what's happening with voter return, you want to find out what's happening with the past voting, typically that's on the county clerk's website. So you want to find some history about who was elected when, okay? What was the turnout at a given time? You'll find that on the county clerk's website. So here's good news, bad news. This is the voter turnout from 2020 and 2021. I didn't do the 2022 primary just because I didn't, okay? In 2020, remember that's the Donald Trump era, the turnout doesn't look too bad. It's 89% for Benton County, it's 78% in Lynn, and it's 79% here. However, in 2021, the special district election, this is the school districts. This is when you're electing board members, the school district. Look at the turnout. Benton County, 40%. Lynn County, 19%. Marion County, 27%. That's pretty poor turnout. If we want to have an impact at election time, the key is turning in the ballots. Okay? There are voter guides out there, a lot of them, to help us. Here in Oregon, we've got, these are my favorite for Oregon, is Oregon Family Council. The Abigail Adams site, that's only available on site. They don't have a printed deal, but it's full of information. The Oregonians for Medical Freedom, that's available online, and the Oregon Right to Life is available online. I know that in the past, we have had the Oregon Family Council Voters Guide available here. That's this guy here, okay? The church decided not to do that this year because so many people are already getting it sent to them. If you don't have it and you want it, I've got about a half a dozen copies up here. The other one, you can go online to their website, put in your email address and your zip code, and get access to the online version, and they'll also mail you one, okay? So there's no reason to not be able to get that. I know it's too late to vote, to register to vote now, but let's look at the process, because in 10 days you'll be able to do this again. So to register to vote in Oregon, you must be a U.S. citizen, a resident of Oregon, at least 16 years of age. You can't vote till you're 18, but you can register. Now, I want to be cautious here. I'm not going to deal with all of the nuances of what happens if I'm not a citizen, what happens if I don't have a driver's license. Those are important issues, but they make about 1% or less of the voting population. We can deal with it at some time, but I want to focus on the 99% this morning, okay? So you can do this a couple of ways. You can go to the courthouse, okay? In Benton County, it's not at the courthouse. They've moved the clerk's office to another facility, but in essence, you can go to the courthouse and you can fill out a document there. You can go pick up the document and fill it out and mail it in, or you can do it online, which is my preference, okay? If you're going to go online, you get to the Secretary of State's office, and you'll find this page with all of this stuff on there, and what you want to do is click on the one in the upper left corner that says registration. When you do that, you'll get the page that looks on the right-hand side. You'll get this one over here. So to remember to register to vote online, you'll need to have an Oregon driver's license, an Oregon driver permit, ID card number issued by the Oregon Driver and Motor Vehicle Service Division, the DMV. You'll need one of those. And when you get this page, you need to click right here, okay? And we'll come back to that. The other one is to go get the hard copy and fill it out, okay? Because if you do it online, it will look a lot like this, but you can do the hard copy and take it to the courthouse. So let's talk about the motor voter before we get into the details here. We passed this in 2016. I say we, the Oregonians. This was on the ballot, and for some reason, we decided it was a good idea. So it's here to stay. So here's what happens. Anytime that you have a renewal, I'm going to back up. Let's take my 16-year-old grandson, okay? When he got his driver's license, okay, he should have received a card in the mail. Now, he doesn't remember receiving the card, and I suspect that that's pretty typical, because it's just a postcard, looks like a lot of other junk mail. Only individuals who are U.S. citizens Remember, we said it's okay if you're not a citizen to go get a driver's license, although we said you couldn't do that. The lady we have up there now said, yeah, we'll let them do that anyway, okay? Theoretically, you can only get the card if you're a citizen. Now, you have to make a decision. You got the card, you can select a political party. So now you're registered as in one of the political parties. You can decline, now you're not a registered voter. You do no response, and now you're an NAV, a non-affiliated voter. So if you got the card and you threw it in the trash, you become a non-affiliated voter. Okay? So I believe that you need to check your voter registration anytime that you do the following. Anytime you have an interaction with the Department of Motor Vehicles, you move, you change your address, you want to change your party affiliation, you have an interaction with the DMV where you go in and update something about your driving condition situation, okay? If you change your name, you need to use the paper ballot, the paper form, okay? You can't do a name change online. So if you get married, want to change your name, got to do the hard copy. What you will need is your name, your date of birth, and your driver's license number. So now you go in and you click on the little box, the next one over, okay? And when you do that, you'll get this page here, okay? And now I can't see, okay? That says, go to My Vote Now. I knew it said something, okay? And when you go to My Vote Now, now you get this page here, okay? And now you have to start in here by putting in your first name, last name, and date of birth. Now, I did this for myself, but I whited it all out. So it's first name, last name, date of birth, and then you click Submit. And when you do that, then you get another page, okay? Now it wants to know if you're a citizen or not, okay? And are you 16 years of old or more, okay? So notice you can click, I'm not a citizen, and there's another path that you go. I'm not 16 yet, there's a different path that you go, but I'm doing the 99% here. So yes, I'm a citizen, yes, I'm over 16, click Continue. Now you get a new page. On this page, now you're going to get the stuff that you've already put in. You're going to get name. On here, you're going to get first name, last name, and the driver's license number is right up here at the top. Driver's license number, first name, last name, and then you're going to get date of birth down here, and then you have to put a check mark here. You got to tell the robot you're not a robot. Okay? Always makes me humorous that it's like, wait a minute, I'm talking to a machine and I got to tell it I'm not a machine, right? Because computers have no conscience. They don't care, okay? So you click Continue, and now you get this page, and all of this stuff will be filled in because you've already filled it in, okay? I've just whited it out on mine. And down at the bottom it says Continue. And now you get kind of a summary page up here, okay? So this is the information that you've just filled in. And down at the bottom of that, there's another button to click that says Submit, can't say that word. I just registered, Submit Registration, okay? Now this is a change, if you've been here before, this is a change in the last year. Before that, down at the bottom of the page was a button you hit Submit. And I watched over and over people go in and fill this stuff in to make a change and then close it. And then they go back and look and go, wait a minute, I changed my registration, but it's not changed. Yeah, because you didn't hit Submit. So they moved that button up. And when you click on that, then you get, whoops, get back here, Skeet. How come it's not coming back? There we go. Then you get this one right here. And now you can print that. That's your confirmation. That's a change that has happened in the last year. Okay? So if you go in and update your voter registration, You want to check and say, well, I've got my address wrong, or my birth date might not be the same, or I've had some other change. Okay, you moved to another house. Be sure you click the deal and print the receipt. Okay, so that's your confirmation that you did what you wanted to do. And now if you get a ballot that's incorrect, let's say you change your registration to non-affiliated for some reason, okay? And you get a ballot, and the ballot is a Democrat ballot. And what do? You take that, and you take the receipt that you've got, and you go to the courthouse. Say, I need you to fix that, okay? Don't get online and tell all your friends on Facebook about the problem. You can do that later, okay? But that doesn't solve it. The only way you're going to solve it is go to the courthouse. All right, so assuming the ballot is in the mail, and I'm assuming you've all got it because they had to be mailed out 18 to 20 days before the election, okay? So the big question is, how do I determine who to vote for? Well, the issues we just talked about. There are these voters' guides, and besides the ones we just looked at, here are two really important ones here. Okay? And these are on that sheet that you picked up at the back. It's Oregon Live, done by the Oregonian. It's Vote Smart, and this one over here, the third one, Ballotpedia. These three have excellent information about candidates on them. And they'll have more information about candidates that are, about people who are incumbents than people who are not. Now, the other thing I like to do is I've got a group of old guys like myself that have been meeting for a number of years for coffee, and we'll take our ballots and get together for coffee and go over the ballots, and people will have questions. Often the place where we have the biggest area where we don't have any information is with judges, okay? It's really difficult to get judge information. That takes a lot of work. So if we have a contested judge position, then we'll usually go, all right, Tom, do you want to take on that person, one person, and I'll take on the other, or Bill will take on one, okay? And we'll get back together next week and talk about what we've found, okay? So we're not asking one another at a coffee cache about who they're going to vote for. We're just saying, what do we know about these people? The other one where that's helpful is with the ballot measures. What do you know about ballot measure 111, 112, 113, 114? What do you know about those? So it's a place that we can kick it around and go, I don't know enough about that, let's go do some research. The other one that I find very important and helpful is a prayer meeting. I assume that you're all involved somehow in a prayer meeting that gets together on occasion. I've got a group that I meet with, been meeting with for over 20 years on Friday afternoons. Okay, and so we'll bring ballots there and we'll talk about them. And one of the things we'll often do is put the ballots on the table, lay hands on them, and pray over the ballots. I mean the Lord knows who ought to be in those positions. Okay, and He'll give us the guidance that we need. And then, John, you've got a group that meets here on Thursdays, right? Okay, and you've got a special prayer meeting coming up. Is it the night of the election or the night before? The night before, the 7th, okay? 5 to 9 in the DC building, okay? So even if you haven't turned in your ballot yet and you want some confirmation, you can bring that to this prayer group. You're not, it's not. They're not going to tell you how to vote, but you can come there and lay hands on this and get the Lord's guidance there. Okay. So here's some of my criteria when I'm trying to figure out who to vote for, and a lot of this goes back to I deal with a lot more of these during the primary. Where do they stand on issues that are important to me? Does this candidate have the experience to do the job if elected? We have lots of brand new people on the ballot this year. Okay? Does the candidate project likability? Okay? Now, that's a hard one for me sometimes because I don't watch any of the news. I mean, I read news, but I haven't watched TV news in 20 years. So, whatever the talking heads are saying, I don't know. So I have to work at that one a little bit. Does the candidate have the work ethic to go through the election cycle? This is back in the primary now, okay? Does the candidate have the staff and financial resources to support and fund their candidacy? Do they have the support of other organizations? In other words, how does the Oregon Firearms Federation, what's their vote on this person? I'm a firearms owner, and so I'd like to know about that. What does the Oregon Right to Life have to say about them? What does Abigail Adams' group have to say? What I'd really like to know is what their worldview is. I'm looking for people with a biblical worldview. Sometimes that's hard to figure out. Sometimes it takes a little extra work. So if you want to evaluate incumbent candidates, Ballotpedia, their personal and official websites, their Facebook page, and their voting record, and we can get their voting record at Oregon Live and at VoteSmart, both places. If it's a new candidate, not run before, they're not an incumbent, their personal website, their personal Facebook page, and if they're high enough up on the food chain, they'll be in Ballotpedia, okay? The mayor or a council person in Millersburg is not going to be on Ballotpedia, okay? The mayor position in Albany, yes, it'll be there, okay? On all candidates, I can go to their Secretary of State filing, get their filing information, and I can also get their financial information at ORSTAR. And I'm going to show you how to do that here in just a minute, okay? So let's take an incumbent person. This is Shelley Bossart, okay? And if you go to Ballotpedia, this is what you'll see. This is the top of the page. Down here's the bottom of the page, okay? So there's all kinds of information in here about her. And over on the right, down at the bottom of the page where the arrow is pointing over there, these are contacts. This is her website, okay? Her Facebook page, her official website, official Facebook page, okay? So you can go get a bunch of information about her there. This is what it looks like if you go to her personal Facebook page or website, okay? And for any candidate, these sites are going to be pro the person, okay? They're not going to have anything negative about them on these sites. So this is where I go sometimes to try to find out what their worldview is, okay? Because do they attend a church on a regular basis is one of the things that I look for. And one of the items that's not obvious that used to be around a long time ago in the 1700s in the state of Connecticut, if you wanted to run for public office, you had to bring a letter from your pastor saying you were in good standing in the church before you could even file. I don't know whether that's a good idea or not, but I'd like to give it a try. Okay? You can also go to her official site, okay? This is the Oregon State Legislative site. We talked about this last week. And one of the key pieces here, if you go here, be very careful. There's an email address right down here, and you never use that for personal or for campaign questions, okay? If you do that, if they answer at all, they'll just say, please contact me at this other site. If they carry on a conversation with you there that's about personal stuff or about campaign, they get fined for that, okay? So the Oregon Live site, okay, and the VoteSmart site are two excellent sites to get information. If you go to the Oregon Live site, you get information about how Shelley voted on various issues, and it just runs down multiple pages. So you'll have to take some time to go, let's see, is that an issue that interests me? How did she vote? She voted yes or no or wasn't there. Okay? The other one I like is this VoteSmart deal. It's justfacts.votesmart.org, okay? It's a great site because it's got a whole lot of information in it. It's got a bio, it's got how she voted, it's got her position on stuff, it's got how various groups rate her, okay? It's got, in some cases, speeches, and it's also got some financial information. So in this case, I just clicked on the one piece of this, and what we get here is how she ranks by various organizations. So there's a group of organizations here. Okay? Each one of these is a different organization, and you get a percentage. They voted 30, give them a 30% grading or 80% or 90%. But it's important when you're looking at those that you go find out about the organization. For instance, I think one of the groups here gave her a low rating. Yeah, it's the Climate Cabinet Action Group, okay? So that's the kind of group that you would expect it to be. It's, it's everything about green, all the green stuff is there. So she wasn't in favor of increasing taxes on diesel and gasoline and, getting rid of the coal-powered plants and all that, and so she gets a low rating. My bias is that's a good thing, but it's your vote, so you get to do what you want there. Okay. You can also find out about who is contributing money to this person. So I clicked on the deal that says finances, and you get this big long list. Okay. And one of the pieces is over here at the top. These are the ones with the largest amounts of money, and I'm sorry that you can't read those because I almost can't read them. Okay, the group that's up at the top, so you got $7,000 of contributions from small donations. They grouped into 7,000, and then we get organizations like pharmaceutical and research manufacturers, general contractors. Oregon Forestry, Oregon Home Builders. So you can look and see who are the people who are supporting a candidate. Are those organizations that you would support or not support? Okay? It'll tell you something about their worldview. If it's a new candidate, and I picked on Mark because he was new and now he's gone, but it's okay. He didn't have a history. I mean, he had some history, but not as a voting member of the House or Senate. So when you're looking at new candidates, you're going to have to spend time dealing with their policies. And in his website, his policies were right here, and if you clicked on it and went in, you get a lot of information. Some of the candidates back in the primary that I clicked on and go there, you didn't know any more when you got done reading than you did when you started, okay? It was kind of some fluff. They believed in God and apple pie, and that was about the extent of it. The Facebook page will also give you some information because here you can also find out sometimes about those people who are opposed to them, okay? If you're quick, because sometimes they remove those posts. But you'll find out where they stand on a lot of different issues because people will write in and they'll often respond to that. You can also go to Ballotpedia to get information. This will give you information, especially about the links. Remember, right over here are links to his various websites, Facebook page, LinkedIn, okay? Things where you can go to find out more about this person. Now it gets more detailed. Sorry about that. Candidates who run for office in Oregon must file with the Secretary of State. And so you can go in and click right down here and find out who is running for office. Now, if you're running for school board in Jefferson, you probably don't have to file here, okay? If you're going to collect money to run your campaign, some people will say, well, I'm going to do that through a PAC or through the local county party. My advice to people is if you're going to run a campaign where you're putting up yard signs and you're putting up advertisement, I know that if you're spending less than $750, you don't have to do this. My advice is do it. Because if you don't do it and you start putting up advertising and somebody wants to come against you, what they'll do is file a complaint, Secretary of State's office, and you'll get a letter that you'll have to respond to. So you'll consume time fiddling around responding to a complaint that you could have cut off from the very beginning. If you're going to run a campaign, okay, and you're going to spend money, to run the campaign. I mean, when we get to the special districts, lots of people put their name, they file, but they don't really run a campaign, okay? And sometimes a county party will do some campaigning for them, all right? But I say to people, listen, if you're going to buy yard signs, you're going to put an ad in the newspaper, okay? If you're going to do those kinds of things where it looks like a viable campaign, please file with the Secretary of State's office, okay? Right? Because if you don't, and somebody files a complaint that you're running a campaign and you're not filed, you'll have to respond, and that'll consume your time, okay? Right. So you click on the button to go in here, and now we have to do a bunch more sorting. Now we have to figure out what year and which election we're dealing with. So I picked 2022 primary election, and I'm looking for state representatives. So I've marked state representatives right here, okay? And then I got to figure out which district. In this case, I picked the 11th district. And then I have to hit a submit button. So I've filled it out here. It's 2022, the primary, looking for state representative in 11th district that are Republican, okay? And then I hit the submit button, and now I get a list. In this case, there were just 2 people. At one point, there were 3, but one of them pulled out, so there were 2. Now, I don't really remember when we were doing the governor, we had, 19 people running in the Republican side, another 15 or 16 over in the Democrat side. If you wanted to look at those, you could come here and get a long list. And what you've got here is, if you click up here, you get a list that's a PDF, okay? Or here you can get an Excel list. Or if you just want to look at one person, you just click on them, okay? And I just wanted to look at Jamie's information, so I clicked on it, and now you'll get a page that gives you some information about this person. Tells you about their education, gives you address, that kind of information about them. Now, if I wanted to find out more about their finances, now I got a backup one, and now I click on another button that's down here, okay, that says campaign finance, and that is, in fact, a thing called ORSTAR, okay? Now we have to repeat some processes here. We can go in here and say, okay, I want to look at finances, and then you'll get this page, and I have 2 options. I can either go in here by name, put in somebody's name, or I can say I want to look at everybody that's running for a particular position. And I think in this one I picked position. Yep, I did. So it's that same stuff where we got to fill out that it's the primary, it's 2022, it's the primary, it's a House member, it's the 11th district, and it's a Republican, and you hit submit, and we get this list. Looks just like the previous list, except it has a few other pieces. Now this one says right under Jamie's name, Friends of Jamie Kate. That's the name of her political action committee. That's the group from whom money goes in and money comes out of that organization, okay? And if I click right up here, I can get an Excel report of all of this information. I just clicked on her name and I get this page. So a whole bunch of information about Jamie up here, but the important stuff is right down here. Campaign finance activity. So I click that button and whoa, look at this. Now I get everything where there's been a donation or an expenditure. And I can export that out as an Excel spreadsheet. So if I want to say I want to get all the donations in one place and all the expenditures in another, you just pour it out in an Excel spreadsheet and go through that. So here's the deal. When you're about 40 days before the election, you've got 30 days from the time something happens till it has to be into ORSTAR. We get down here in I think it's the 40-day period before the election, you have 7 days. So if you buy something, you get money, or you spend money, you have 7 days in which to get that registered in ORSTAR. Okay? And the place that you'll get fined most often is for a failure to meet the timeline. Okay? Because I can tell you, somebody is always, if you're in a campaign, somebody's always watching. Okay? And it's one I have a hard time getting across to people who are doing that. You got to keep your OrStar stuff up to date because somebody is always looking to try to nail you to the wall. All right? Now, federal election. People running for federal office. Jo Ray Perkins is running for U.S. Senate. Her information is not in OrStar. Her information is over on the federal elections page, okay? So it's fec.gov. And you go over here and click on the button down there. It says, I want to find out about finances, okay? Because this has got a whole lot of other stuff in there. And now you got to go, all right, I'm in Oregon, okay? And then I have to go, what am I looking for in Oregon? Well, I'm looking for Senate, okay? So notice you're having to keep clicking in. And now we get a list. This is only finance list. This is the filing of information that is on hand with the federal government, okay, based on a federal election. And at the time I did this, Mr. Wyden was at the top of the list with $8 million in the bank, okay? Jo Ray is down their ways with $8,000. So while money, I mean, the Lord can do whatever the Lord wants to do. And we know from past experience that money doesn't necessarily get you an election, but in most of the time, it helps. And when you're saying, I've got a candidate I want to back, they got $8,000 and they're coming up against somebody with $8 million, we got a battle here, okay? That's going to require probably more prayer than we're going to get at your prayer meeting, right? All right. I mean, we have an example back east where somebody, what was it, $200 he spent? Yeah. All right. So, you got the ballot. By the way, how many of you have turned in your ballot already? No? Okay. All right. Well, here's some things to think about with your ballot, okay? You need to fill the oval in, okay, completely. Not just a little bit, but completely. What do you do if you make a mistake? Well, here are 4 examples of how you can deal with that, okay? One of them, you can cross it out and write this one, or you can do, these are 4 different examples now. This is not four times here, okay? Or you can say, oh, I made a mistake, I didn't want to do yes, and you can write not this. Or you can do this, we put a circle around it, or this one where you do an X around it, over it. Now, in every case, whatever you do here, this will have to be hand counted, okay? The machine can't just, deal with that. So if you're voting for one person or measure, be sure to mark only one oval. Marking 2 or more on a yes and a no, or 2 or more people when it says 1, will cause it to be hand counted, okay? It will take longer, and that delays the results. If it's a write-in candidate, you have to be clear to do a write-in candidate that you write the name in as it appears on the voter registration. So if you're just writing somebody's name in by random, it doesn't work very well. But if you're truly trying to do a write-in campaign, and I've done a couple of those where we've been successful, okay? They were in school board elections, and we only had to get about 300 or 400 votes. But we had to get postcards made up that said, write me in this way, okay? And I didn't run for election, but my name is an example, okay? If somebody wrote me in as Skeet, Arasmith, they're not going to count that. There is no Skeet Arasmith in the voter register, okay? They would have to use the name that I don't use, okay, which is Everett, okay? And if they look for an Everett Arasmith, he died about 20 years ago. He was my uncle. So here's the other piece. Make no other marks on the ballot. I've had the opportunity to look at ballots that have been rejected, and they had to do the hand count on them. I looked at them on the screen. I'm surprised. Some people will write a whole story on the ballot, okay? And I don't know who they think is going to see that, because at the Lynn County Courthouse, there's only 2 people there that will typically ever see that story, okay? The first person who had to look at it, and then she has to get the assistant clerk to look at it, okay? So the dashes, these dashes that are along the bottom and along the sides, those are used by the machine, okay, to be able to identify where the ballot is at as it's going through and reading stuff. So it knows where you put the little circle. It's not reading people's names. It's just going, we're here. What's marked over there, okay? Right. Now, not all counties are using the secrecy envelope anymore. Benton County has decided not to do that for some reason. My deal is you got the ballot done, you put it in the secrecy sleeve, you put it into the mailing envelope, and you sign it. It is amazing to me how many ballots show up at the courthouse that are not the envelope not signed. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a fairly large number. There's several hundred in Lynn County that show up there. People didn't sign it. Now, I'm done with it. I put it in the envelope. It's signed it. What do I do with it? You have 3 choices. You can take it to the courthouse, you can put it in a drop box, or you can put it in the U.S. mail. My personal preference is I don't ever put it in the U.S. mail, and you can if you want to, okay? I either take it to the courthouse inside the building, or I take it to a drop box. In Lynn County, there are only 2 drop boxes that are not locked behind a closed door at night. One of them is at the courthouse with 3 cameras on it. The other one is over at Lebanon at the police station with another 3 cameras on it. And the clerk at Lynn County is not happy with those 2 boxes being outside. He'd like to have them inside, but voters request for those to be out where they can get at them. So he succumbs to that, because remember, he's an elected position too, okay? If you want to know where the ballot box locations are, you can go to the 3 county sites, any one of those, and you can get either a list of the sites, or in some cases you can actually get a link that shows you the sites on a map. Here's the one for Lynn County. You put in an address, and it's supposed to show you the site. I find this particular piece of software to be clumsy, okay? I have put my address in here multiple times, and it never finds me a drop box, okay? It says I don't exist. It's like, okay, I mean, it's a nice idea. I think the Marion County one seems to be a little more efficient, okay? Ballot return deadline, okay? The ballots must be received at the courthouse by 8 p.m. on election day, or thank our legislature for this, if mailed, must have a postal indicator showing it was mailed no later than the day of the election, and received at the clerk's office no later than 7 calendar days after the date of the election. What that means is, in a large turnout where stuff is mailed in, we won't have the results for 7 to 10 days. Okay? Thank our legislature for that, okay? We're running out of time here. One last little piece. You can track your ballot. If you're in Lynn or Benton counties, you can track your ballot by going to the Secretary of State's office. If it's Marion County, they have their own tracking system. You go to the clerk's office, click on the button down at the bottom that says track your ballot. All right, if you lost your ballot, you didn't get a ballot, you received the wrong ballot, your ballot was damaged, you spilled coffee on it, the dog ate it, whatever, just take what pieces you have or the information, go to your county clerk's office and get the problem resolved. Posting information on Facebook won't get you a ballot. Just go to the courthouse. So in order for our country to return to biblical worldviews, this is my hit here, we must select candidates who have a biblical worldview. We then support those candidates. And remember, there are 2 elections every year. We start by electing candidates that have a biblical worldview at the local positions. Remember, there are over 1,500 local positions in our 3 counties. Out of that group, we can select people to move up the line. I am opposed to people suddenly going to run for governor or for Senate or for House who have never held an elected position before, okay? There are good people who do that. I'd like to see them get their feet wet at the local level so that we can evaluate their performance. All right, and I'm over time, so I don't have room for questions. I'm sorry about that. But there's another group standing outside who want to come in the door. So I'll be up here for a couple of minutes if you want to talk to me. Okay? Thank you.